Morning, Will.
Good morning, brother Rich. How are you today?
I'm alive and well, my friend.
Well, that
Did
all
you watch
starts there, right?
it does. Did you watch the game last night?
I did. We had a little family night down here. Got a pool table. I don't think I told you about that. So
No.
back in the day, I played a lot of pools. So getting those skills back up right now, and hung out with the family down here and played some pool. Watched the game. It was amazing. Even with the extra players with the funny black and white shirts, the Chiefs still lost.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't want to see what was the meme I saw. I have not wanted to see both teams lose this bad since it was Obama and Romney.
Yeah, no kidding. That's I think I voted for Gary Johnson in that election, the Libertarian candidate.
Yeah, I can't. I know I didn't vote for either one of them. I can't remember. It must have been Johnson. There was one other one was McCain and Obama. I voted for whoever the Libertarian was that year, just to
Hmm.
try and get a third party in there. Nothing else. I mean, it just in Wisconsin, Obama was up by like 8 points the night before the election, so my vote was wasted anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Those, I think Trump has will not only be a disruptor in many ways, but I think American politics are forever changed.
Yes.
Hopefully, we're never going to go back to those kind of you can have Romney or Obama. Like,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah,
a choice?
those establishment types, whether it's Team Red or Team Blue, I think they're done.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it'd be the best thing for the country. Really, I mean, we're seeing it, this Doge thing that you're going to dig into later on. I think is a huge game changer. A lot of people are going to see just what's been happening, and then that'll be number 412 for conspiracy theories that we have that come true.
I know. I tell you, they're on tear.
I'm telling you, they're spoiler alerts. So let's see, we got a few of our friends on this morning. Will Rhodes on from Missouri, and Alan Kelly from Occupied Virginia.
This is Virginia.
Yes, I did see the Ram commercial last night. Let's just pretend I need these now.
You don't need them.
The I did see the Ram commercial last night. That was a good one. I thought of you, Alan, when I saw that one.
Have you seen the? Speaking of trucks, have you seen the F-150 Cobra?
Mm-mm.
Ooh. If you get the
Ooh,
supercharged package, it's 770 horsepower
nice,
in a pickup truck, and it's off road.
sweet. Yeah, that's that. That sort of thing is gonna make a comeback now. I think.
Yeah, and if you got an extra 140,000 laying around, you too might be able to get one.
Yeah, that's American dollars, folks. American dollars, not pesos.
Now, if it was a Canadian, it would be.
It'd be 341,000 or something. So,
Yeah.
and soon, actually, pretty soon, they're gonna be able to build it out of lumber if the tariffs stick.
Well, or there'll be the 51st state, which
Yeah,
is that's a whole nother thing.
yeah, it is. So,
Without much further ado, my
yeah,
friend, I guess we should get into today's
yeah.
show. They didn't come here to just stare at us. They came here to see
Well,
the
I
show.
mean, the excuse is the show, but starting off with our typical fear of greed index here, it's bouncing around here 39. It's if you want to call it a high fear, almost neutral there. Um, the one thing I'll throw out there is I kind of been feeling this way about it. And now I see Bloomberg has an article this morning. Basically, the over optimism isn't the right word. Bear with me. Let me get the right words here. If I'm gonna dangers of a happy-go-lucky market is the title of their email this morning. And that's kind of the way I even catch myself feeling like, yeah, the market dips and then it comes right back. Trump talks some trash about this and the market dives and then it comes back over the next couple of days to the point I'm just starting to expect it. And that's a dangerous thing when you're talking about short term stuff. So just something to kind of keep an eye on here, guys. Eventually something's going to break and we're going to dig into some stuff here today. And I even have an anecdotal story. Something I found on my latest trip to Walmart when I was trying to make myself feel better. I was feeling a little down, so I go to Walmart and look around and go, you know what, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But it's very anecdotal, and I'll throw the context in there, but just a little life reminder too. So that's about where we are on the fear greed index. There just isn't a lot going on, and when I say that, there's obviously a lot going on in the world, but Trump and what he's doing is overpowering almost everything else in the news cycle.
That's it. No huddle offense, brother.
Yeah, that's it. And that's part of the if you like what he's doing, the beauty of what he's doing is he's just overpowering the system. Kind of like he actually is following Obama's track there. When Obama got in office, he used Cloward and Piven, um, overwhelmed the system was theirs. Now they did it from the far left and advocated for that in their book. But it's kind of the same thing. The system can't keep up with the changes he's throwing at it, and then it just kind of breaks down. And
Yeah,
Obama did the same thing from the far left.
Yeah, and if you like that sort of thing, I'll raise my hand. I love it. But as we'll see here in a second, when we start talking about Doge, one of the things that you texted me yesterday, if I may share that with everybody, is
Of course.
we need to be, and I 100% agree with you, we need to be fair arbiters and call balls and strikes as we see them, and not just arbitrarily drink the Kool-Aid. And I think although I love what Doge is doing, you'll see what I have to present on that. There's some concerns in there as well.
There sure are. Yep. Very valid ones too.
Kyle is on from the Philippines. Will
Awesome.
Parker's on it there in Montana. And my good friend, Mr. Michael Gentili, says irrational exuberance.
Yeah. Seems like I've heard that somewhere before. And I'll tell you what, Michael, I think we may be, if we're not there, I think we're bumping up against it, at least with half the country right now.
Yeah. And the, somebody was saying that, Trump is just escalating all this stuff. And when it comes to foreign policy, it is our nuclear policy that has been drawn up, I guess, in the 50s, escalation dominance. We're prepared to escalate beyond what our enemies are willing to do. And I think he has taken that into foreign policy beautifully.
Yes. And let's face it. I mean, that's part of the reason America as we think of it, is because we're willing to push stuff further than anybody else. And we had the military power and the monetary power and the people to back it up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Tony is on. It says, good morning, folks. And Guile says, I like Kool-Aid. So refreshing.
Yes. So speaking of Michael's comment about irrational exuberance, let's dig into this. This is, I didn't like this chart when I first read it, but the more I looked at it, the more I liked it. So we're looking at past stock market, or I shouldn't even say stock market, bubbles in some sort of financial market. The first one's the Nifty 50. That was the .com of its time there in the 60s up to the late 60s. It was 50 stocks. They were the ones that were going to take over the world. This time was different. Fill in all the blanks, right? And so that was everything. Each line is indexed back to a starting point of 1.0. So that it stays apples to apples comparison here.
Okay.
So yeah, the Nifty 50 went from a 1.0 to generically here called 5.0 during that period of time. Gold, you and Razmik would like this particular chart from 1970 to about 1980. It went up about 15, up to about 15.0 on our chart here. Okay. The Nikkei 225, this is when the Japanese were going to take over everything in the 80s, and they were on their way there. They went from 1 to about 10. Okay. And we know that we know the reasons they ran out of that, and it smells kind of like what we're going through right now. You got the NASDAQ, your tech stocks, if you will, from 1990 to the .com bubble bursting in 2000, went from about a 1 to a 10, right? Oil again, we remember the oil prices and the aughts, as my kids call them, from 2000 to about 2008, a big contributor to the housing crisis. That went from a 1 to a 10. You also notice they got U.S. home prices in there, went from about a 1 to a 2.5 during that period of time. Now let's look at the Magnificent Seven. This would be Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, Tesla, right? This is the seven that have been holding up much of the market. It went from a 1 in about 2012 now to about just shy of 30.
Damn.
So this is compared to gold in the 70s, double. Everything else triple. As far as what it's done, this is its rate of change during this period of time. So it's gone straight up exponential. Now, how did all those other ones turn out, Rich?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, I seem to remember reading the same history book. None of those turned out good. And this one is worse by at least a factor of 2.
Yeah. I wonder what AI will play into this,
Mm.
because that's a disruptive technology. If it's going to hurt
Yeah.
these or help them.
I think I've got a slide later on how AI is working out right now. And I want to specify right now because timing matters. And um, we'll see how it shakes out. There was a time I'm seeing parallels between now and when the PC came out with AI.
Yeah, Dr. Gordon Botson is on. He's coin number 1688 in Ohio. And if you want to find out if becoming a coin member of our self-preservation community is the right decision for you and your family in 2025, then I take the challenge. Check it out. It's
Please
there's a
do.
link in today's show note. On the AI thing,
Mhm.
my former CO, when he was a brand new major, retired as a 2-star general, he was on a panel recently, and he was some defense industry panel, and they were asking him questions. What is the future of warfighting and technology and innovation and weaponry? And his number one thing was AI, and he said, I hear a lot about it. There's a lot of people talking about it, but when it comes to what it's going to do specifically, there's a lot of people that kind of looking around the room.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing obviously clumsily what he said, but it's like, where's the definitive thing?
Mhm.
I know what Chat GPT can do, and I know what it's doing in certain industries, but when it comes to war fighting and AI, I mean, it's almost like, have you not seen enough sci-fi movies to scare yourself to death on going back to war games and Whopper,
Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Would you like to play a game? Yeah, I mean, I did see there's a new defense contractor called Skynet. I'm sure it's nothing. I wouldn't worry about that.
what could happen?
So,
What's the worst?
what's Alan Kelly had to say there?
I have some left-leaning acquaintances and family members that are losing ever loving minds over Trump's economics and Doge. They can't see things past their noses. Yeah, we're gonna dig into Doge a little bit. I think
We're
it's
gonna dig
gonna.
in that. But I want to mention this before I forget because I was listening to a podcast or something when I was working out yesterday, and a left-leaning, I believe, senator was saying, like, well, what Doge is saving is a rounding error on the budget. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. $500 million divided by 300 million people, that's just over $100 a person. They've done that over and over again, right?
Mhm.
And then I got thinking about, well, try to take the other side. And yes, on what a $3 trillion budget, it truly is a rounding error, what they've done. It is. But let's look at the budget. Okay. You got Social Security, Medicare, and interest on the debt, the three biggest expenses. Those
Mhm.
are untouchable, right?
Mhm.
At least, I mean, the first two politically, they're untouchable. The interest has to get paid, correct?
Mhm.
So, really, we should look at Doge, in my mind, not as a percentage of the overall budget, but a percentage of the discretionary budget.
Mhm.
Because that's the only part that can really be controlled without major changes to the system, right? So the
Yeah.
left will try to make it part of the overall budget, but really, I think it should be compared to what can be controlled, which is the spending. And I haven't had a chance to dig into those numbers.
One of the things that came out in the press gaggle that Trump did on Air Force One last night, I encourage everybody to watch it. It's about 30 minutes. It's really good stuff. One of the things he said is, when Elon gets done with the Department of Education, we're going to find so much. And when I send him into the Treasury, and he said, we may find out that we don't know as much as we think we do. And I'm like, a little bit of foreshadowing there, perhaps,
Yeah,
but that's
could
an
be.
interesting one. So,
It is.
yeah, stay tuned for that. I want Mark Hamilton is on. Good morning, sir, from Toronto, Canada.
Yes.
Mark, if you would share with us what you think about Trump's 51st state comments and Governor Trudeau and all those kind of things. How are the average Canadian taking that rhetoric? Really, seriously, would be interested in that. I love
Yeah.
Will's comment. What's Will Parker say?
The rounding error was done with malice. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely it was. Because it is just in the scope of the federal budget, it's just 500 billion here, 500 billion there. And when nobody's watching, no different than credit card debt. When you get off on your own and mom and dad aren't watching anymore, going, "Hey, what's this charge on my credit card?" Yeah. Now, of course, that's not done with malice when you're in your 20s, like I did, but it's the same idea. So
Yeah.
the lack of oversight. So you know, those of us who have been in business, you're not truly accountable until the bank says, "Hey, where's our money?" But for those of us who have worked in corporations, and you're held accountable for those numbers, monthly, quarterly. There's been no downside for these folks.
Did you see where the Marine Corps passed their audit and all the other services have not?
I did
And
not see the Marines pass. No.
yeah, some Marine buddies have been sending that to me. And I'm like, I have no doubt, because we take that shit seriously. Now, we don't get a whole lot of money, and every penny that trickles into the Marine Corps is used pretty damn judiciously. And if you don't believe me, go look at our barracks and the kind of food that we're fed, and you'd be like, oh, okay. There's not much around here.
I'll tell you what, I got a little angry when I was seeing the Department of Defense failed eight audits in a row and can't account for however many billions upon billions of dollars. I'm like, wow.
Do you remember the Rumsfeld presser on September the 10th?
Yes, I do.
Well, how much money did he say they could
I can't remember. I remember the presser, but I can't remember the number.
It was with a T, as in trillion.
Yeah.
Unaccounted for. Don't know where it is. Yeah. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So.
And then planes slammed into buildings the next day, and everybody conveniently forgot about it, like it never, ever happened.
Yep. And then there was a big money spigot that got turned on, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Now you really, now you thought we had fraud, waste, and abuse. Wait till you see what's going to happen now. Don Bothwell is on up there in Northwest Montana. Don, great to have you on. Gal says Canada's beautiful. I was there last October and loved it. Yeah, I saw the pictures of you and you up there in Canada living the dream.
Yep, beautiful place. So these next few charts, guys, these are admittedly anecdotal. Maybe they mean something, maybe they don't. But I think between the three of them, they show a bit of a pattern. This is Ford stock. You can tell where they reported earnings at. Now, the key here is it says Ford stock falls over 5% after reporting Q4 24 earnings. And here's the key part: with weaker than expected guidance. So guidance is what they're saying is going to be, in this case, first quarter of 2025. And then each quarter, most companies also give a guidance for the next full year. So in this case, it would be all of 2025 with Ford. That's all I got to say on that one. If you can click to the next one.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So there's an old saying in stock stuff. One thing is a data point. Two things draw a line. Three things make a trend. Okay. So now we're up to 2. We can draw a line here. Amazon stock falls over to 7% despite recent reporting stronger than expected Q4 24 earnings. Can you guess what their guidance was?
Not good.
Not good. Yep. No. They didn't say the happy things.
No.
So, and Amazon, of course, is a huge retailer. Now, Walmart's starting to eat their lunch. Okay. They really are. The Walmart Plus, they're really coming after them. And Walmart's holding up better, given that they also sell a whole lot of groceries that people need day to day. So that's anecdotal, not stock advice to buy at Walmart, because we don't do money advice around here. So let's see if we can make a line here.
Bam.
Boom. This is AMD. They make chips. Can you tell what their guidance was? Now, here's the crazy part with AMD. Now, I there may be more to this. I did not listen to their earnings call. But check out the guidance here. Revenue guidance for the first quarter of calendar year 2025 is $7.1 billion. That's for their overall revenue. Slightly above the midpoint. So the analysts came up with a whole bunch of different analysts came up with different numbers, but the midpoint of all those estimates was $7.01 billion. They came in above the midpoint of the analysts, yet their stock did this. Their gross margin guidance, so the gross profit margin guidance for the same thing, quarter one of 2025, is 54%. Right at the midpoint again, but slightly below analyst estimates. So NVIDIA stock really hasn't done much for the last 2 months. This is AMD. I think with especially the chip makers, maybe overall in the tech sector, but definitely the chip makers, in my opinion, the analysts and the market have become so used to blowout earnings, that when you don't just absolutely blow their estimates out of the water, this is what happens. So, yeah. So this is something. Now, does this mean the whole market's going to crash? today, tomorrow? No, I don't think so. But I do sense it could be the start of a change in the sentiment. See what I'm saying? So
I do,
and it could turn out to be a nothing burger, but I think it's a data point overall. These three things to me make a data point.
well, I think that's what Michael Gentile is saying here. He says, some like me see the market ambiguity as a tacit nod that the Trump administration may actually disrupt the economy in the short term. Absolutely.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. Yep. I've definitely pulled back, holding a little more gold. And just, the stuff I've got sitting in there, I'm just gonna let it ride.
Mhm. Now, with Ford stock and Amazon, I mean, do you think this is an opportunity? I mean, again, it's not advice to buy the dip, so to speak.
I'll put it this way: I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not, only because tariffs are the wild card.
Oh,
So
wait a minute, because I'm going to throw that back at you.
Okay.
Because if you go to the UK, you won't find a Ford anywhere. You won't find a Ford pickup truck anywhere. I challenge you to do so. Same thing with Europe. I mean, what if the tariff war gets Ford into that market, and you bought it at $9 a share, and suddenly Ford F-150s are all over Europe. I mean, I don't know if that's possible, or probable. What do you thought?
And you bring up a good point that in the longer run, right?
Yep.
So it would depend what your holding period is for, I'll say, Ford stock, since you brought up that portion of it. Let's say you wanted to hold Ford stock forever, want to pass it down to your kids, right? Then I would say yes. I don't feel that way about Ford stock personally. I just don't follow it that closely, so it's not saying it's a bad company to hold or anything. I'm just not that familiar with it. But it is going to come. I think a lot of the market's going to come with volatility, to Michael's point, because it's tariff on, tariff off. Oh, there's this, there's that. I mean, this morning, Trump's supposed to announce a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum. Well, not financial advice, but I might want to look at X, ticker symbol X, which is U.S. Steel. And, they just got a whole bunch more pricing power, right? Now, will that turn around and go away in 2 days when other countries negotiate that away somehow? Maybe. Do you really want to own U.S. Steel through all that volatility? I don't know. That's
again, it's all about your time horizon. What is it?
Horizon, and unless in the case of something like steel, I wonder how viable we are in that marketplace with our labor costs without tariffs.
Right.
So as those tariffs come and go, it'd be interesting to look back in time. And the only way to do this is to look back after it's over and see what U.S. Steel's stock price did days after tariff announcements, whether it's putting them in, taking them out. And I'm not sure I want to own...
and I apologize, Will, but I swear, at some presser Trump did recently, there was discussion on some foreign company buying maybe not a majority share or something in U.S. Steel, and I'm like, what?
Yes. Actually, Biden blocked it. Nippon Steel would own U.S. Steel right now if Biden had not blocked it in October, somewhere in there. And he blocked it because of the national security issues, which I think was the right call.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I believe they're our last major steel producer here in the U.S. Almost everything comes from Mexico, which when the U.S. Steel stock price went up considerably when Trump was throwing on the 25% tariff on all U.S. steel, or on all Mexican imports, went up quite a bit, to the point Mexican steel manufacturers stopped accepting orders from the U.S. for a few days. So, yeah, we're going to dig a little bit more into the tariff stuff here as we go.
Okay.
It's a negotiating tool, but it's going to cause volatility, and that's 100%. I think what I would try to impress upon people is, if you are of the mind that U.S. Steel is a good buy throughout this period of time, I would just not even look at it.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I may go buy Ford today at $9 a share. I think think it's a steal. Not to,
Mhm.
and
Make,
but
make
on a
sure make sure to buy Nike stock at the same time.
well, but on a time horizon of 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I think you are a day trader that just happens to fly airplanes.
That's more of my mentality for sure.
Yeah.
So I look shorter term, I look month, 3 months out. So right now I've got some stuff I buy and hold forever that I'll never sell.
Mhm.
But I don't talk about it much because it bores me,
Right.
to be quite honest.
Yeah, I get it. Tony says
So
Ford is saying that they lost 49,000 per EV electric vehicle sold in 2024. How is that possible? You got me, brother. I hadn't read that.
yeah, I've heard numbers along those lines here and there. I think those things probably sell for what, 80, 90,000. So
Not a
it's
clue.
just costing them that much more. It's also you have to dig into how they're accounting for that 49,000. Does that include all the build out of the infrastructure for that, the
Marketing.
amortization of those costs, the marketing for something that's brand new?
Mhm.
I mean, when the Mustang first came out, I bet they lost money on that,
Mhm.
for whatever period of time. They sold a bunch of Mustangs pretty quick. It was a car culture back then, of course.
Yeah.
But I guarantee the first, maybe it's a shorter period of time, probably a month, 2 months, they probably lost X number of dollars per Mustang. Over time, it's done very well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right. What is
All
this
right.
going on here?
So this is multiple job holders. This is a little bit of a skewed chart. So I want to talk about it just a little bit. You can look at that and um, and Michael brings up depreciation as well on those things. Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely true. Thank you. Will Parker says EV Mustang with a puke emoji. Although I'll tell you what, I got a buddy that's got one of those things. Holy cow, that thing's a
Really?
monster. It is an absolute monster. I miss
All
the
torque.
rumble of a good V8 engine, but that car is an absolute beast.
Mm.
Um, so multiple job holders. This is in thousands of persons. But if we go, in fairness, if we go back to 1995, we had a lot less people. We probably had what, 200 million people here.
Mhm.
So you got to take this little grain of salt. So I don't look at the raw numbers on this, but rather I try to look at the trend on charts like these when they're not adjusted for percentage of population. So the point here is more and more people are having to hold multiple jobs. And that's what we want to get out of this. People are squeezed. I just went and bought, a bunch of eggs the other day, and I had to fill out the paperwork for buy now, pay later and a second mortgage on the house. Holy cow.
But people are blaming Trump on that, but I believe it was under Biden. There was a bird flu or something. They had to destroy 1 million something birds or
Yeah, there was definitely that. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was on CNN looking at the latest fear greed index right before we started here. And the headline is egg prices are back up. But it's not Trump's fault, and it wasn't Biden's fault either. So, even CNN is, I mean, that's also why this was on CNN Business. The business pages of whether it be CNN or Fox are much more middle of the road because they have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, I tend to look at those a lot more for things like that.
Manhar, hey Manhar,
Hey Manhar, how you doing, brother?
One of my favorite South Africans is joining us. He says, "Buy Krugerrand coins." That's all I'm saying.
Yep, something to be said for that right there, brother. So,
and Trump's coming after South Africa right now. I'm hoping everybody's watching that.
He is, and I don't want to gloss over John Shriver's comment up there about it. He says, "I like mine." He's referring to his beautiful Mustang. Forgive me, brother, I can't remember the year of that when we got to spend some time together, but it's a beautiful car. So,
Don says all investments come with a temperament/emotional cost or limit. How much anxiety a buyer can tolerate due to volatility should part of their investment choices. If you're going to have a stroke every time the market dips a couple of percentage points, you probably don't want to be chasing some stocks. Well,
for sure. One of the best lines I heard, it was in reference to Bitcoin, but I can apply it to anything. It said, if the volatility of it bothers you, then you own too much of it.
Yeah, amen. I'm going to go back to this chart you have here because I was telling my sons, I don't know, over the weekend we were chatting about something, and each one of them working only one job. I said, brother, in the 90s, man, I was a full-time Marine bouncer. I might work at a scuba store on the weekend, or be a fitness trainer. I mean, I was running 3-4 jobs. Lisa, we were doing everything we could.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're living above our means, perhaps. Okay, great. But we had to work for it.
Yeah.
And save and stuff like that. So, I mean, on some level, there's not a whole lot new. Maybe it's new for this generation. The idea that if you want to partake in the American dream and you're, you have a limited education, limited IQ, limited job prospects, maybe you got to work a couple of different things, side hustles, whatever.
Yep, for sure.
Did you work multiple jobs back in the 90s?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I flew airplanes and worked cutting meat. I grew up cutting meat. My dad owned a butcher shop, and I would go fly night freight. I'd start around 6 or 7 p.m., work till 6 a.m., and then go cut meat till noon, take a nap, and do it again 6 days a week.
There you
go. But you got to pay your dues somewhere.
Amen.
So, all right. So just something to keep an eye on, guys. But also, as you see these charts, check the details. If it's in thousands of persons like this, it's not adjusted to a percentage of the population. So, but watch the trend. So we're looking at this trend along with everything else.
Right.
So, now this one, I want to dig into this home stuff a little bit because I think this is going to become a bigger story. And I've been harping on this for a couple of years, and I think it might finally be coming to fruition. Wish it wasn't. So this, to your point about multiple jobs and working hard here. So this is from National Association of Realtors. So they're probably going to put the shiny side up on this, right? Qualifying income needed for the median priced home nationwide with 20% down. Okay. Note, not inflation adjusted. All right. So 1995, you needed to make $32,000 a year. That is to buy the median home with 20% down. Now you need to pull down almost 104,000.
And what percentage of the population actually makes 104,000?
How does that put you in the top 20 for sure?
Exactly, for sure.
I would say maybe even top 15, somewhere in there. So and if we look back on this, they do inflation adjust that 1995 number at 66,000.
Yeah.
So that tells you home prices have gone up considerably more than inflation, which we can see from this chart, right? They skyrocketed. And we're going to dig more into this chart here. If you can go to the next one there, brother.
Okay.
So I've added a couple little things in here. You can see how from 95 until we can see where things start taking off there for the housing bubble, that yellow circle, call it 2004-ish when things started taking off, 2003, somewhere in there. And you can see how at that time we thought home prices were going up so fast, but now you look at it in historical context compared to now, it doesn't look like much, does it?
No, and that video I sent you over the weekend, where they were talking about in the 80s, it's like living was cheap when they were showing the adjustment for what rent costs, what a home costs, and then relative to your entertainment costs were astronomical. I mean, I remember Lisa and I, we got married at 86 and 88, we bought a TV, and it was just a, 20 something inch sitting on the ground. And it was like $400, $400 in 1989.
Yeah.
Or 1988 was, God, man,
it's real money.
What I made in a month. I mean, I'm being facetious, but that's a lot of money. Now you can get a 70-inch flat screen for probably $500.
If that.
Yeah.
But and that's deflation, right? And that's where, we talk about wanting inflation overall in the economy, but technology is deflationary.
Yeah.
So this is something overall bigger picture we do want to keep an eye on as a society, because that's AI is a big technological change. And when the computers came on in the 80s and 90s, particularly in the 90s and late 90s, that was very deflationary.
Yeah. I had Lisa and I bought our first computer in 95. It had 1 gigabyte of memory. And I'm like, we'll never fill this up. Our grandkids won't fill up 1 gigabyte.
Right.
Here we are.
Yeah. Now my son's looking at laptops for college, and I'm like, just get a terabyte. Just don't even mess around with anything else.
But what can AI do about this? Okay, technology piece, but what about this?
Yeah, I don't think there's much AI can do about this. This is obviously runaway money printing during COVID and lack of supply in new homes. And we can go back and talk about the regulations it takes in many parts of the country, because bear in mind, this is a nationwide chart. Okay. And housing is more localized than that. So like I live in Wisconsin. Here, I don't see home prices coming down. There's no supply here. We're only talking now. It's wintertime, and there's always less supply in the winter up here because nobody wants to move. But you're only looking at a few months supply up here, about 3 months supply. Conversely, the area of Florida I'm looking in around the Fort Myers area, Northport, which is the northern part of Fort Myers up against the river, 18 months of supply of housing right now. And
Wow.
stuff that my wife and I have been looking at for a while, houses that have been on the market. Suddenly there's, in one little area, there's 4 open houses on Saturday. And they haven't had an open house in a year because they didn't need to in that area because the house was just sold in about 30 or 60 days. Now there's multiple open houses on the same street on the same day.
Damn.
So real estate is very localized. So you got to take these nationwide charts with a little grain of salt. But the trend is still there nationwide.
Gotcha.
All right. So this one to me is more troubling because for most people, where the vast majority of their wealth comes from is their home. Well, first-time home buyers hit an all-time low. This chart goes back to 1981, which would have been, if you think about the time, rates were still super high then. We were in a double-dip recession, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even then, 44% of home buyers were first-time buyers.
Yeah.
And now we're down to 24%. How are these younger folks going to build wealth? Even if the housing market crashes by 30% wherever you are, just to generically throw a number out there. We know over time, housing goes up in value because the value, if nothing else, the value of the dollar goes down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are these young folks going to build wealth?
But see, I always, every time I hear that, I don't think that way. Maybe I'm a 1950s man stuck in 2025, but I guarantee if we asked our grandparents, if we went and knocked on their coffins and said, hey man, in 1950, did you view your house as your single largest source of wealth? They'd be like, it's my house. What are you talking about? Wealth. That's not, those two things are not linked. Although somewhere along the way, maybe it was the advent of the MBS, somewhere along the way, it became, no, my portfolio, the house stands atop all that. Like, that just it still doesn't make sense to me. And I hope to God it never does because it just sounds insanity.
I think it depends how a person views things. I wonder if it also plays into the people living longer. And by that, I mean, ending up needing long-term care because they'll take your house in a heartbeat. And if you go into a long-term care facility and haven't shielded that with a trust and they do the 5-year look back, they'll go sell your house, pay your bills.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if that's played into it. Back then, I don't remember hearing about long-term care back then. Maybe there weren't the medical advancements and people just died instead of, living longer dependent upon pharmaceuticals and other things. Not judging any of that, just throwing it out there. So I wonder if that's played into it. Also, let's face it, there's the financialization of everything now. So things just changed. So they didn't view it as that. But here's my question: you don't come from a real wealthy background, neither do I. I wonder if that, even back then, did the wealthy people view it that way back then? But now it's made it to the common folk.
I don't know. But
I don't know.
I don't know. One final thing I would say on this is, and my friends fall for this trap repeatedly, especially those that have a little bit more means than your old pal Rich Brown does. Man, Rich, I can sell this now and make 700,000 or 1.2 and then they're like, and then I'm gonna hop into a rental for a year and be able to, and inevitably they're screwed. Yeah, because their time horizon on when the rates are going to come down and what they're going to be able to get for their dollar now that they've cashed out, it just never seems to balance out unless you move to a few markets down. You know what I mean? You move out of that Nashville metro area. You don't go Nashville metro to Williamson County, Franklin. Your dollar is going to, invert. I mean, if you move to a smaller market, then you might be able to realize that gain. Otherwise, you're screwed.
Yeah, I agree. That is that's impossible to time.
Mhm.
There's just, and then on top of that, not only is it very difficult to time, it's so localized,
Yes.
right? Even if you look at the housing crisis, the homes up here by me, the market locked up because the whole economy locked up. But home prices up here only went down 10%, maybe ish, if that, in some
Mhm.
at some levels of the market. But Phoenix went down. Well, I'll say Fort Myers because I'm more familiar with that market. Went down 57%. But that's a lot of second homes easy to walk away from, right?
Yes.
So that's so localized. It also depends on, are they downsizing home too? If they're becoming empty
There you go.
nesters and nearing
Yeah.
retirement, then a person can do that. But that's a different take than what you said.
Mhm.
So it is incredibly difficult. And I'll tell you right now, that's a game I'm not going to try to play.
Yeah. But if you're
You can
moving,
see my view in the morning. I ain't leaving.
yeah, exactly. If you're changing markets and you're downsizing from a 4-bedroom home that you raise your family into a condo,
Mhm.
then maybe that's a wise choice. Otherwise, you're
Yeah,
just going to get your ass handed to you
absolutely.
most time. Yeah.
Yep. So the danger I see here, and I take your point about the home being a source of wealth. However, as I've mentioned to my older son, who's looking at moving out here this summer,
Mhm.
um, if you rent, and I know you're not advocating for renting, I get that, uh,
Mhm.
because he's looking around the market going, these home prices are ridiculous. I can rent for less than what that's going to cost. And the way I explained it to him is rent is 100% interest because at the end of
Yes.
the lease, all you got is a stack of receipts to show you paid it on time and you paid my place off for me. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
So, um, Michael asked a question about the Fort Myers one. I can speak to that one a little bit if you got a moment.
Please.
Cost of insurance. What is the cost of insurance playing in the Fort Myers market? It is the entire Florida market. Fort Myers as well as the similar problem since I forget the name of the building over in Fort Lauderdale fell and killed, I believe, 97 people. And the hurricanes. Insurance companies have been leaving Florida in droves and driving the price of insurance up incredibly
Mhm.
to the point I have seen listings and talked with sellers who have said it needs to be gone by April 1st because we can't afford the next insurance payment.
Oh, wow. Damn.
And all I hear on that is, wow, I got negotiating capital here.
Mhm.
Now a few things are changing. First, there are new insurers entering the Florida market because they don't have to pay off from the claims from the hurricanes because they weren't there,
That's
but
right.
they get to charge these sky high prices right now.
Mhm.
That's number one. So that's starting to bring the homeowners prices down there. The other one is, as an example, roofs in hurricanes obviously get torn off.
Mhm.
So in the past, let's just say, to keep the number this easy, these are not realistic numbers. Let's say if the roof got torn off the house, it was going to cost 20,000 to put a new roof on. Well, the insurance company could literally take one premium payment and pay out $20,000.
Mhm.
Even if let's just say it's a 10-year lifespan for a roof. Again, it just keeps the math easy for me. And let's say it was 9 years old. Well, there's only 10% of the original value left in that roof on a straight line uh, comparison, right? Now, the way the insurance policies are being written, and it's been approved by the regulators in Florida, the insurance company will say that roof was put on 9 years ago and it's cost $20,000 to replace it. We're only liable for $2,000 of that.
Damn.
And that's the way the policy is being written, but that's bringing the insurance prices way down. So, for the folks who are staying there, that's letting them afford to stay there. So it's going to impact the market the other way a little bit. However, whenever the next hurricane or major weather event happens down there, there's going to be a lot of people who can't pay that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but in the short term, they're going to be able to cash flow it and stay there. Personally, I like that because I'll go requote the insurance every year as my roof ages, and I'll just stick the money aside and enjoy the better cash flow. But
Mhm.
so that's how it's playing out down there right now, Michael. So what's Mark say there?
Mark out in Australia is on. He says, "Good morning, gentlemen. I believe people are always upsizing to get to that beautiful view. Rent is dead money." And he is
Yep.
right.
Absolutely true. And well, Reddit, what's Alan say?
Alan says, "Compare that to today. A lot of people are in the same boat about owning a house."
Yep, very true. So, all right. So this is from the National Association of Realtors. Again, going back to our first chart there about the cost of housing. So we sold in 2024 nationwide 4.06 million homes got sold. That is the lowest since 1995, brother.
Damn.
When it was 3.85 million. But going back to our original the chart we started with the charts, it was the multiple job holders, right? And that wasn't adjusted for population size. So this 4.06, that's a raw number of houses back when we had about, I'm going to say 200 million people here. Now we got 50% more, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to, a population adjust that, it should be 50% more than 3.85. And I'm not doing that math in public without a calculator. So 4.06 is way behind a population adjustment, right? Because you can see your population went from 266 to 341 million. I guess I could have just looked down to see that. So population went up 28%.
Right.
But your inventory, single family home inventory went from 1.58 million homes in 1995 to exactly a million in 2024.
Unbelievable.
Down 63%. Gee, I wonder why prices are going through the roof, huh?
Yeah.
That whole supply and demand thing, right? And now, if we look at the median annual existing home sale price in 1995, it was 114,000 back then. Adjust that for inflation to today, it's 241,000. It's nearly double that, 407. Now, again, these are nationwide numbers, guys. Your local market's going to be different. I know mine in Wisconsin is way different than that.
I would love to see this relative to multifamily homes and apartments. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, single family inventory, I got it. Because I see apartments exploding everywhere, specifically in the Nashville market, which is blowing up.
Yep.
I mean, they're throwing up. And even places like Cookeville, Tennessee, it's like,
and this is the market's answer to that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because all that multifamily coming on, which is happening nationwide because of this situation, is going to drive rents lower and lower. Eventually, that's going to drive home prices lower because people will just rent forever. They'll just look at it as a cash flow item.
And that's exactly what it looks like. Our good friend Donald Green is saying around Richmond, Virginia, new construction is booming, but the vast majority is multifamily condos and all high price.
Yep.
Yeah. So so look at it this way. I mean, and I think this is what you're getting at. Okay, people are getting housing, but they're leveraging their future by just throwing away their money into rent.
Yeah, yeah, and they are now. To Donald's comment there, is it truly a condo or is it an apartment building? Because condos individually owned, and will some of these apartment buildings eventually be condoed out?
Right.
Probably some. Who knows how many? Right. And then it goes from rent to a mortgage and ownership, right? So, so the market will change in time, but these folks are gonna. When I say these folks, I mean these builders, investors that are building these. They're gonna make their money here for a while, right? So we'll see. And Donald says their own condos, so they're not technically single family homes, but there's somebody not paying rent, right? So. And this may be the change that happens over time. And if we look at it generationally, Gen Xers, boomers, we wanted to have the white picket fence, the yard. We wanted all that, especially in larger areas. That hasn't been the case for a long time. But generationally, it's the same generation that wants the subscription for the heated seats in their BMW because then they don't have to commit to buying them, right? Well, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, those are that same mentality is not going to want to deal with lawn care and all those things, right?
True. But I mean, this Michael Gentili's comment speaks to why when we try to compare these nationwide housing market things, it gets a little skewed. This is home in Franklin, Tennessee, which is again one of the hottest places in the country. That's tripled since 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, tripled in 17 years. Whoa.
Yeah. Yep. So it's and they're not making any more real estate inside of Franklin, right?
No, sir. They're pay to play.
I was there this summer, and yeah, they're not making any more there. So
Place.
yeah. So now we're gonna do a little headline dump here. Oh, actually, no, it's still part of that. So this was from Market Watch, the top one. Homeowners, particularly first-time buyers, are worryingly late on their mortgage payments, and this is kind of fading out because I wasn't going to pay them a subscription to just read the rest of this. In 2024, the share of serious delinquencies, which are those more than 90 days past due but not in active foreclosure, rose to the highest level in 2 years. Did people get in over their heads? Was there a rate buy down that's now kicking out? Is it, inflation, the price of eggs, if you will, and everything else biting those folks? Is it they can't job hop? There could be a gajillion reasons. It's a data point. Okay. All right. This is one you and I haven't talked about this in a long time, but we called this one quite a while back. U.S. cattle herd continues to drop. A new record low, not a record low, a new record low. As of January, the total number of cattle and calves was 86.7 million, down 1% from last year. The beef herd has shrunk 40% since 1975, the smallest size since 1961. Okay. Beef cows that have calved hit a record low of 28 million, revealed the Department of Agriculture, while replacement heifers also decreased, indicating continued contraction in the cattle cycle. So there's fewer replacement heifers. That means this trend will continue through at least another generational cycle of cows, which I think is about a year and a half. So, the right here, Tony, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, we're getting that.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself there. Squirrel moment there. Yeah. So I would expect to see beef prices continue to go up for a while. So hashtag not financial beef advice, but I just put a side of beef in the freezer. And, in the meantime, I'm actually continuing to buy beef week to week until the prices get to the point I don't want to pay it. Then I'll eat the freezer down. So that's my way of handling that.
Yeah, good stuff.
What do we got here?
Don says in our area, we've had one of the older motels in town converted to apartments, and new apartment buildings and storage units seem to be popping up on every flat piece of ground they can find. Yeah. Same thing. Those storage units are everywhere, man.
Yep.
Alan says the same thing is going on here in rural Southwest Virginia. Both apartments and condos are being built. However, house construction is spotty.
Yep.
And Tony says, raise your hand if who's paying a 20,000 Politico subscription. Well, here we go.
I didn't pay the $99 for the Market Watch one, but I shell out that 20,000 for Politico, just so you know. Yeah.
Thank you to
I
everyone.
use Rich's credit card for the record, but yeah.
So here's your Doge comment. Now,
hey, let me hit this my anecdotal thing here that I didn't make in the slide.
Oh yeah,
here.
please.
So this is I went by Walmart the other day. Let me see if I can find the right spot. Sorry, that guys, that virtual background messes up. This is a receipt from Walmart. Now I went up to the self-checkout thing so I could get my employee discount. And this receipt was laying on there. It had been spit out, hadn't been torn out yet. And so I picked it up and read it here. And this very anecdotal. I'm not saying this is everybody who goes to Walmart or everybody who's shopping, but it was a little reality moment because I'm very strict in my budget. And I swung in there to get some eggs because I'm going to cook those up and freeze dry them. Okay. Because prices are probably going to go up some more. Right. So doing that as part of the preparation thing. Right. And I was kind of like, I didn't put this in the budget this month, kind of kicking myself a little bit, but knowing I was doing it for the right reasons. Right. A little perspective here. It says receipt of voided payment, declined transaction. It's a debit card. Okay. It was run twice at 4:03 and 4:07 p.m. for $9.56.
Damn.
Yeah. So this person didn't have $10 in their checking account. Now, and are they just irresponsible? Entirely possible, right? But that's the sign of a stressed consumer, right? Even if they're irresponsible, they're still stressed.
Yeah.
Right. And it was also, here I am whining about going and spending whatever. It was 3 18 packs of eggs. I mean, whatever that works out to, at about 50 cents an egg.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I think I need to put my problems in check here.
Right.
So a little something just throw out there to you folks. I mean, this is why some folks are using buy now, pay later for food.
Yeah, it's all relative, right? Our
Yep,
problems.
absolutely. So, all right, sorry to interrupt. What you got, brother?
Yep. So this is I'm going to entitle this "Don't Fall in Love with a Buzzsaw,"
Okay.
and that's Doge right now.
Hmm.
The minute you fall in love with this damn thing, your fleece pullover gets pulled into it and it cuts your freaking head off. And I think that's where I'm going with this. If you go to, I think it's doge.gov or something like that, their official website, all it has on is this right here. It says Department of Government Efficiency. The people voted for major reform, and that's it. There's nothing else to click. It's
Okay.
one screen. It doesn't say website and construction. It's just like, hey man, the people voted for major reform, so we're going to give it to you.
Well,
Um,
they're being efficient with their website. I'll give them that.
yeah, no doubt. So the task force that Musk has put together, and I think it's there's a lot of talk about this guy, Big Balls, this kid, and the rest of them that have their CB handles or whatever. But they are identifying federal contracts and spending on issues that do not align with Mr. Trump's policies, including DEI and foreign aid. So far, it says they've saved taxpayers over $1 billion, but in reality, as you'll see here in a moment, it's almost 40 million. So it's 40 billion so far. Uh, Musk wrote a November opinion piece in Wall Street Journal that he and his then Doge co-partner Vivek Ramaswamy. Interesting to see what's going to happen to him. He may take J.D. Vance's position, I think, as a senator from Ohio, aimed at cutting $400 billion in annual federal spending. That would represent about 7% of the federal government's $6.7 trillion in annual expenditures. But what is that when 2/3 of the government spending is directed towards Social Security, Medicaid, and national defense? So this is the thing. Trump vowed to protect Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare, whatever, and retirement benefits and healthcare benefits for millions of senior citizens. But again, what happens with Doge? I don't know. It could be the
Mhm.
buzzsaw that pulls a lot of people into it.
Yep.
So 510 days until July the 4th, 2026. I don't know why they're saying our 250th anniversary is going to be something for Doge.
I believe that Doge is 180 or an 18-month. That's how
Oh,
much time Trump has given Doge. So it may be the date he put on it.
I
I'm
gotcha.
supposing a few things there.
Again, this is pulled as of yesterday, 36.73 billion savings for every taxpayer, almost $250. And if you look at here's updated data on the things that they've cut so far. Bureau of Land Management, they killed one contract, and these are just DEI contracts.
Can I stop you for 1 second there, brother?
Yeah, yeah.
So let's just say somebody will say $250 per taxpayer.
Mhm.
Big whoop, right? Well, let's say you've got like your family or mine, we've got two taxpayers here, right? Three kids, in
Mhm.
my case, two parents, three kids, right?
Yeah,
Well, $500. There's a really nice evening out. Nice family dinner, like really nice family dinner up here in Wisconsin. Go see a movie, go out afterwards and have dessert and a couple of cocktails, right? That stimulates the economy,
mhm.
right?
Yeah. I mean, the Brown family compound here. There's a lot of damn taxpayers on this
Hmm.
farm, and every one of us are enjoying our 250.
Yeah.
But if you look at this, like, why did the Department of Treasury have 21 DEI contracts that added up to, over $35 million?
Yeah.
This is just insanity. So already you've got a saving of $1 billion just by killing DEI contracts. I mean, that's
Yeah.
craziness. So NASA, this is true, man. NASA
Yeah.
spent $500,000 on Politico subscriptions. And of course, this came out on February the 5th. Doge says that the NASA leadership has verified that was canceled as of February the 5th. But what in the hell is the grift going on there?
Yep.
Well,
Well, and then you wonder why in press conferences and coverage, you'll get Politico or whoever it is. Politico is, of course, the hot button one right now, but you get Politico saying, "Oh no, Biden this or Harris that." Well, they know where their bread's buttered,
mhm.
right? But then people will say, "Well, I read a Politico article that says Biden's just fine." or Harris isn't a cackling idiot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stinks. So here's another one from Doge on their X profile as of yesterday, I believe. Great coordination across 35 agencies over the last 2 days to terminate 199 wasteful contracts, saving 250 million, including a contract for Asia Pacific Sri Lanka climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience coordinator services for Forest Service. That's insane.
What does that even mean?
I know. Let me read that again. Asia Pacific Sri Lanka Climate Change Mitigation, Adaptation, and Resilience Coordinator Services for Forest Service. Why the hell what? And this is a workshop for intercultural communication, diversity, dialogue, circle, communicating across differences. What in God's name is this?
Gosh.
I mean, if you're not following them on X, I highly encourage you what they're doing. I love the transparency, by the way. And this is where I love this too. This is the National Institute for Health. And I think that we're starting to see people police themselves. And this is why I'm showing this, because Elon Musk retweeted this. It says last year, 9 billion of the 35 billion that the National Institute for Health granted for research was used for administrative overhead. Let me say that again, $9 billion of the grant that they gave for research funding was spent on administrative overhead. It's bullshit.
Yes.
What was known as indirect costs. Today, that is lowered. That NIH has lowered the maximum indirect cost from in excess of sometimes 60% to 15%. That's all you're going to get.
Yeah. And did you see the museum piece they got rid of?
Oh, the Anthony Fauci.
Yeah, and NIH has a museum. First, why?
Why?
Okay. Second, why were they doing an entire thing for spending, I forget how much money, on an Anthony Fauci exhibit? And what like 4 people a decade go to the NIH museum? I mean, seriously. And how many people stand around to be tour guides there getting paid God knows how much?
Yeah. I don't get it. And then here's another one that the GSA, Government Service Administration, has repealed 3 internal DEIA policies, eliminating 17 websites and removing language, blah, blah, blah. But it's this last one here I like. The GSA terminated 3 leases of mostly empty office spaces, with tenants relocating to nearby buildings in the GSA portfolio with a savings of 1.6 million. As they continue to dig, and this is something I saw when I was the deputy director for recruiting operations across the Southeast United States, we had leased places, not we, but the GSA had, I would go there. I'm like, what's this empty building doing? It's got cobwebs everywhere. How long have we been spending $7,000 a month on this office? Well, yeah, but we might want to put a recruiter in here eventually, and it'd be easier to just keep paying the lease than it would be to try to go get it. I'm like, who do we talk to? Shut this down. I'm like,
yeah.
This
is business 101. We'll figure it out in a year when we need an office, right?
And I'm just like, who do I need to talk to? Like, well, Chief Warrant Officer Brown, it's really not your problem. I'm like, I'm a freaking taxpayer, brother.
Yeah.
This is my problem.
Yeah. I love
fleets, man. It's all that waste.
I love Michael's comment here. This would be huge if this could happen. I'm not even sure they can pull this off. Says if Elon can get government expenditures searchable online, that's a big win. That would be gargantuan. You want to see an uprising in this country? Holy cow. Yep.
Well, did you see somebody has put a chart showing the money flow back to the Clinton Foundation, and Chelsea Clinton collected like $84 million. And that speaks to what Tony's saying. It's how politicians become millionaires on $170,000 per year.
For sure. Yep, absolutely. And this is it. And you notice that the Clinton Foundation went away after Hillary lost to Trump, and they lost all their access to the levers of power. Suddenly, we're not going to do that anymore. Right.
I love Will Parker's comment right
here.
Yes.
Anthony Fauci exhibit should be found at Fort Leavenworth. Yep. What he did to this country just angers me every time I think about it.
I know, man. So this GSA thing says with savings of 1.6 million, these are the first steps to the right side of the federal real estate portfolio of more than 7,500 leases. Yeah. And some of them are really expensive leases because we have to recruit everywhere, right?
Right. And there for a while, there was a a REIT, a real estate investment trust that specialized in leasing properties to the federal government. Sure, I'm glad I didn't put money in that one. But yeah, so there's an entire complex built up around leasing property to the federal government.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this. Don't fall in love with the buzzsaw, because eventually it's going to decapitate something you really love.
Yeah. Yep.
Right now I'm just cheering like, go baby, go. But there's going to come a time when oh no, not that. Yep. So you got to cheer just as loud when they slice off something you don't like.
Yep.
But in the first,
like in business, they're going to cut too far somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And then it'll adjust back. But people will get stuck in that spot where it goes too far that way, yep. Right? And we see this across business. Many of us have lived it, where they cut too much and then we can't get the job done properly or efficiently because they've cut the cost too much. And then it'll swing back the other way because they'll realize they went too far. But like speed, when you're out practicing pistol shooting, you don't know what too fast is for you at that point unless you start throwing misses.
Exactly.
So you got to throw some misses to find out what too far is and then back off.
Yeah.
If they don't back off, we'll be on here criticizing them for that. But first, we got to find out what too far is.
Yeah, it's a failure point cycle. I got to find the failure point. And the only way to do that is to go too far, go too fast, to use your analogy. In the first 80 hours, approximately 420 million of current impending contracts have been canceled. 2 leases have been canceled. 784 million in taxpayer dollars for a new U.S. embassy in South Sudan. Let me say that again. $784 million. You could buy South Sudan for $784 million. I mean, you could buy every inch of real estate, probably kick those people out of there. What the hell are we doing spending that? It's insane. Not a reasonable.
How would that money have played out in South Carolina?
Oh my God!
I mean, $784 million probably would have helped some folks out there, right?
Yeah. It costs 3 cents to make every penny. So what are we going to do with that? I don't know.
There's been talk for years of getting rid of the penny. I don't think it'll really happen until we go to a cashless society, which I'm not in favor of, but it's coming at some point.
Yeah. Again, going back to the point that Doge is making people look, and again, don't make me, if I'm in line, don't make me come there with my hit squad, because when I do, I'm rolling out plastic on the floor and you're going to be standing on it. So you better
classic 80s movies reference, guys. If you don't get it, you need to go check your Lethal Weapon series.
That's right. Lethal Weapon 2. I think.
I can't do the South African accent. Maybe Manhart could call in with that. I'm checking to see if I'm standing on plastic.
That's right. Because you just might be. But yeah, don't make me come down there, because if I do, which again, I did a show on like my top 10 leadership advice, wrote an article about it, such. But number one is do an audit. Number one, before we get to all the real fuzzy hug kumbaya crap, no. Number one, do an audit on yourself. Don't make higher headquarters come down and do it. You do it. You find the waste before anybody does, and root it out immediately. You're going to lose some friends in the process, but that's okay. I married my best friend. I don't need any new best friends. But I think that's because it's getting a spotlight. I love this. Now we're starting to look at, like, wait a minute, why did the Los Angeles wildfire czar make $500,000 for just 90 days of work?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, what the hell did he do? Because he sure didn't turn the water on. That was Trump.
Yeah.
So again, another grift.
Yep.
What is our good friend Mr. Will Parker say?
This one could be interesting. We'll have to see if it moves into something. There he says, I've not found, it says he has not found additional corroboration. What he's seen so far appears legit. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro has been implicated in the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania last year. So without knowing your reference, I'm just throwing this out there. We've talked about it before, but I read stuff in there, some out there sources, and then wait to see how it migrates. So we'll wait and see how this migrates over. If it does.
Yeah, if it does. But I do know that Trump he wants it all looked into, the assassination attempts on his life.
Absolutely.
I saw that coming over the weekend.
Yeah.
Don says, when they're culling the herd like this, you can bet a sacred cow or two will get slaughtered. That's
absolutely true. Fact. Absolutely true. So,
Doge's access to sensitive financial data has raised concerns about the potential for errors, with Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts, writing in February 2nd letter to the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that providing Doge with access to the system is risking misstep that could result in global financial meltdown that costs trillions of dollars and millions of jobs. Others have flagged data security risks tied to Doge's access to taxpayer information, such as, and here's the thing, as Elon Musk pointed out, like, hey man, I started PayPal. We've
Yep.
never had a leak. Guess what? I got all
Yep.
your freaking information already.
Right. Well, and not only that, it didn't make this show on my stuff, but somewhere I've got a link about the Chinese government hacking the Treasury Department and getting access to workstations. And I didn't hear Elizabeth Warren up there chirping about that.
No,
Oh, that's right,
and
because the Chinese aren't going to expose anything.
OPM has been hacked how many times? I keep getting
gosh.
letters in the mail saying the VA has been hacked, and I get another letter like, oh, by the way, Chief Warrant Officer Brown retired. Sorry, China's got your data again. Or the information's across the dark web. Might want to change your passwords. Thanks, guys. Great job.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And now the Treasury has said Doge has only been given read-only access to its payment system, but I would guarantee you Big Balls has probably figured out a way to get around that.
Yeah.
So final thing is, again, don't fall in love with the buzzsaw. It eventually is going to slice something you don't want to have sliced. So while I'm excited about it now, can't wait to see what's going to happen, I also realize at some point it might give old Rich Brown a haircut along the way.
Absolutely. And me too, and everybody else here and everybody in the country at some point. And it's easy to say right now, and I get that, because I haven't had a haircut yet, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, I'm willing to take my whatever. I'll say a $5,000 haircut on something, right? Just to throw a number out there to get rid of everything else that's going to save me and my children over time tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, right? So I can always petition to my elected representatives to bring back whatever it is that I care about.
Exactly. Now that was my problem when Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House, and he negotiated the Ryan Murray bipartisan budget agreement. I'm still pissed off about this, and they were going to steal, without my consent, 1% of all veterans' retirement benefits. I'm like, I did 23 years for this, man. This was an agreement I signed with Uncle Sam, wrapped in the American flag, coated in my sweat and blood of mine and my brothers and sisters. And you're just going to, to make a deal with the Democrats, you're going to steal 1% from me a year over time, over my life. Now, if they would have said, okay, don't worry, the Senate and the Congress, we're going to take that 1% haircut with you, I'd be like, hey, no problem, man. Let's fix this thing. Yeah. But it was just going to be the veterans and to pay down the war debt of trillions of dollars from Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm like, wait a minute. The people that fought and died, you're going to take 1% of them from them to pay the war debt, and you're not going to pony up any yourself? Yeah. No, man. Criminal.
Yep. Yeah, that's... And even within that, so I'll play devil's advocate here. Let's say they did take that 1%, but did they turn around and increase the number of things they can be reimbursed for? Right. If they did something like that. So you got to look at that devil's in the details, right? It's like when you hear about CEOs now, when times get tough, they go, well, you know what? I'm not going to take my paycheck this year. And that guy's paycheck or woman's paycheck is $700,000 a year, but their stock options are worth $8 million.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. So you got, so even if they say that, dig a little deeper and see what else happened. It's like, we can dig into the tax rates back when the highest marginal tax rate was 90%. Yeah. But you could write off everything.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
this is the Dems are sweating that their asses are going to be in the Doge crossfire. Yes. They might get the fingers cut. And this is something that I have not heard yet. And I kept waiting for somebody to ask President Trump about this on last night's presser on Air Force One. It's like, once you uncover this fraud, waste, and abuse, are there going to be investigations to hold people accountable to this? I haven't heard that question being asked, but I hope the answer is a resounding yes. Not only are we going to stop the grift, but we're going to pull that thread a little longer and see what's attached to the end of it.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do, because this is opening a lot of people's eyes. I sent you and TC a video of a African American gentleman. Looked like he was maybe in Philly or New York City. There was an elevated subway there, and he went off for about 3 minutes.
It was
and
awesome.
He was like, "I have now, because of Doge, I have now seen what has been happening." How the Democrats, his words, Democrats have used the African American to get votes and things like that. And he's like, I'm done. I believe the quote was, I'm denouncing the Democrat Party.
I love that.
This is a game changer.
Yeah, this is and I said this to TC too. TC, I don't think is on here this morning, but I hope this remains a soft revolution, because I think it is a revolution. That's the only thing you can say it is, because I think if they accomplish what they can accomplish, and again, Elon Musk, there was a picture of him sleeping in like I don't know if you saw this. He's sleeping on the floor of OPM, and he's in an American flag sleeping bag, kind of a red, white, and blue sleeping bag, sleeping on the floor. And that's incredible.
Yeah.
Think about
that.
The richest man in the world.
Yep. What message did that send to the people who worked there? Right. And what message does that send to the American taxpayer? And I did see a tweet of his where he said, yeah, most of the government takes weekends off. That gives me a two days a week leg up on them.
Mm-hmm.
Working weekends is a superpower.
Yep. And so I'm reading The Art of the Deal, as you told me to. Loving it so far. I also encourage people to read the Walter Isaacson book on Elon Musk. Because this guy, ruthless. One of the things that they're like, when he's trying to launch rockets, they're like, okay, there's a company, Mr. Musk, that makes an air conditioner coolant because this certain mixture of chemicals need to be cooled to this temperature. And they're, let's say, $750,000. And Elon is like, did you look at the specs on that one? That coolant for $750,000. And like, well, no, it just says on the work order that's what we need. He's like, yeah, it's exact same thing that you can get at Walmart for $75 that you put in your window. And so he's like, yeah, we're going to go to Walmart and we're going to put that on the damn rocket. So it's your money and you treat it that way. That's the way you start thinking. Though we need businessmen running this country, not Leon Panettas and Hillary Clintons.
Right. And thanks for pointing that out. I just put that in my Audible cart while we were talking there for that book on Elon Musk. Which when that book came out, I was kind of like, whatever, I don't care about Teslas. But now it's a different thing, right? And going to your thing about the rockets, I remember reading in business courses about the space program in the 60s. They did everything top shelf. It was they couldn't afford failure. Very, very true that part of it, but it was also government money. So all their electrical connectors inside of everything was gold, literally gold, because it conducts electricity wonderfully. So then the NASA engineers, after the space program kind of died down, these NASA engineers would go out and work for whoever. And one of them, there was a famous story in there, started working for a company that made toasters, and they came in and they were like, what do you mean it's going to cost $80? Bear in mind, this is the 70s. Well, all the electrical connectors inside the toaster were made of gold.
Oh God.
Because that was his mentality, right?
Yeah.
So same thing here. This is the contractor we use for this, and it costs this much money. And somebody has to go in there and be like, why?
Exactly.
Yep.
Why? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's all I got on Doge. I'll keep tracking Doge as the weeks go on.
Okay. Awesome. Looking forward to those updates. This one goes back to our previous conversation about AI. So corporate leaders, is from Bloomberg. Corporate leaders are leaning on AI at work. How is it impacting you? This was actually a survey they put out looking for responses from people. So I'm interested to see what comes of this. What I found interesting here, because I remember this time, in 1987, Robert Solow, an economist, wrote, "You can see the computer age everywhere, but in the productivity statistics." So think about where we are. We're in 1987 with computers compared to where we are with AI right now. And then look what happened with computers and productivity, how that changed the workforce, changed how things got done. Will we see that with AI? I believe so, but we're still not seeing it yet. But let's also remember late 80s, early 90s, there was also a lot of tension with labor at that time because of the changes that computers brought, right?
Mhm.
And then let's think about what we've seen recently. One of the big things with the port strike that almost happened under Biden and then got cleared up, their big thing was limiting automation in the ports to protect their jobs. That was
Mhm.
the big sticking point. We've also
Yeah.
seen that in auto manufacturing. In the end, how did that work out in the 80s and 90s? Eventually costs won out, right? They offered enough raises to the people who were going to stay to get them to sign off on essentially firing part of the workforce, right?
Yeah, and I
And for our younger folks,
there we go.
how did that work out for the people who resisted change?
Well, and I was gonna say anecdotally, one of my daughter's best friends, she went to South Carolina Art and Design University, whatever it is there in Savannah. Got a great degree, went to work for a lot of really good companies, making a lot of money as an animator and illustrator. And she just lost her job to AI
Yep.
because I can have AI do whatever I want, cost me
Mhm.
zero,
Yep.
and it doesn't take a day off. It's
Right.
never sick,
Yep. And
It doesn't need health
as a
care,
business owner, I pay for it once, right?
right?
Even if it's a subscription based service, I pay for it once a month and I know what my costs are. I have a contract, right? And to Michael's comment, Luddites don't last. Very true. You got to embrace those changes. And it's tough. It's hard for everything. And it'll happen across all industries, right? Coding, computer coding.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can ask AI to write you the code,
Mhm.
right? Now maybe use a human to tweak in a few things that maybe AI isn't quite there yet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's you gotta embrace the change here.
Right.
So doesn't mean it's gonna happen tomorrow, but it's gonna be a process just like everything else. Okay.
Well, it's
This
increasing an exponential rate, so that is
yeah,
somewhat exciting and terrifying.
yep, all the above. So um a little bit of a headline dump here, guys, to try and keep the show somewhere under 3 hours long today. BMW CEO proposes cutting EU tariff on US vehicle imports to 2.5%. The article goes on to say it's currently 10%. And that goes to your point earlier about you won't see a Ford in Europe. Well,
Right.
yeah, there's why. And now suddenly when Trump says, hey, you know what? 10's good for you. It's good for us too. Matter of fact, we're going to do 25 or whatever number he threw out there. I'm not sure what it was. Suddenly, they're not even sitting at a negotiating table, and BMW's over there going, you know what? How about we cut ours to 2.5? Because I don't want to lose access to the American market.
No kidding.
Yeah. So this is how Trump negotiates, guys. He throws it out there. He throws out ridiculous stuff. And to that point, when he threw out there that we'll take over to Gaza and turn it into what the Mideast Riviera,
Mhm.
not for 1 second did I think he was serious about that. Okay.
Okay.
So but here's what I think it was. What happened right away? Egypt galvanizes Arab momentum against Trump Gaza plan. I can't remember if I cut. I hope I didn't cut this off. If not, I'll paraphrase it. Go to the next slide there for a second, brother. Yeah, here we go.
Mhm.
So the Egypt said on Friday has been in contact with Arab partners, including Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, to firm up the region's rejection of displacement of Palestinians. Um, why wouldn't they want them around? Anyway, that's a different story. Okay.
I don't get it.
So so now suddenly the foreign minister from Egypt, and I'm going to try and pronounce the name, guys, has been in communication with counterparts from 11 nations. Well, why weren't they doing that before? Oh, that's right. They weren't being forced to, right?
Exactly.
Because they didn't have the crazy man coming up with crazy ideas back then, right?
Mhm.
The constraints of the Arab position on the Palestinian cause, rejecting any measures aimed at displacing the Palestinians from their land or encouraging their transfer to other countries outside those territories. Now, I did find it funny here when they were talking about moving Palestinians would be a flagrant violation of international law. I'm pretty darn sure there were some violations of international law on October 7th. So my worries about the Palestinians and international law is about zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less than zero.
Yeah. Okay. And an infringement on Palestinian rights, a threat to security and stability in the region. So now suddenly you've got Egypt and these other countries, in other reports I saw, they're willing to pay to rebuild that area, rebuild Gaza. Before, who was it ultimately going to fall on? Probably us.
Mhm.
They'd be filtered through the UN and US aid and everything else, right? Suddenly now they're ponying up the cash because the crazy man said, you know what, let's just go take it over.
I tell you, I watched that presser last night.
Okay, I will.
He was like, "Yeah, we're gonna buy it." And, uh, I don't know. I won't steal it. It's well worth your time. So
Okay.
sometimes he says things, and other times it's like, I think on this one, he
Yeah.
might be serious. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but he's
Well,
like, "Yeah, we're gonna buy it."
so I'll throw out the other side that he's got to make it look serious.
Nah,
Right.
you maybe you're
It's
right.
like when you square up against two guys outside the bar, you got to make it look like you're serious that you can win. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, even though
Yeah,
you know your chances are not good, all you got to do is get them to move in that direction.
true.
Right. So,
Mhm.
what's this one have to say? I really like this one.
Someone with half your IQ is making 10x as you because they aren't smart enough to doubt themselves. There you go.
There you go. So, yep.
And Dr. Botson says, remember, Egypt used to own gods before 1967. They won't take it back.
Makes one wonder why.
Hmm.
So, yep. So, and Alan brings up a point there. Auto workers unions are definitely pushing back on it, just like they did on robotics. How'd that work out?
Hmm.
Eventually, the business is going to be like, you know what? We'll pay anybody who's left 20% more, and they're going to save money in the end, right?
Hmm.
Now, there's some things you can't. Well, I mean, let's look at. So I was just talking to a friend here not long ago. He actually works at an automation. They design automated stuff.
Hmm.
Um, awesome stuff to look at, just incredible. One example of it, and I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school here, is science experiments. It's all robotics now. It's all automated. Putting the stuff in the test tube and all that.
Hmm.
You've got scientists here in the US that can type in the computer, hey, I want to see what happens if we do this. And in India, the machine changes what it's doing. And in whatever period of time is required, they can watch it happen live on camera through the internet. And then whatever time it takes for whatever magic happens inside the test tubes or whatever, they can see the results. And it runs 24/7, 365.
Wow.
And it's just incredible what they're doing there. Yeah, just awesome stuff. It's not going to stop. It's not going to change. He was talking about his experience as a young man working at a auto manufacturing plant, and as a young intern, he got put in charge of the paint shop, which is the most senior guys in auto manufacturing at that time. And he was like, yeah, they just ate me alive every day. He's this young college kid. But now the paint shop's all automated.
Yep.
Humans don't spray paint anymore. And let's face it, the machines do it better.
Yes, they do.
And I will say that as a person who is terrible at painting cars. That's why it's one of the few things I hire out when I'm working on cars is the paint, because I suck at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Well,
it's coming.
Well, it is coming. And once again, fantastic show, Will.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed the Doge stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing those updates over the coming weeks and months, including when it goes too far. We need to talk about that too, just like you mentioned.
Yeah. Tony says, so what happens as more and more people lose their income replaced by automation and AI? I tell you what, the answer is not going to be UBI, Universal Basic Income. I think we've seen that I don't, Andrew Yang, and he never did explain how that was going to work. It just, we just give people money to sit on their ass.
Something about modern monetary theory, which is neither modern nor a theory. We know what happens, right?
That's right.
But to your point, Tony, I mean, what happened to the folks in robotics came on it? I grew up in farm implement country when John Deere started putting robots in to put combines together. Same thing with auto manufacturers. Yeah, they have fewer employees. And
what happened to all the monks sitting around, writing Bibles all the time once the Gutenberg Bible come along in the press? I mean, these are disruptive, and Doge is disruptive. It's a buzzsaw, and it might lop a finger off or two, but protect yourself.
Yep.
Diversify.
And to Michael Gentile's comment when Biden said learn to code when he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, he said they should learn to code. Yep. Well, there's a lot of government folks that should learn to code right now, right? Oh, that's right. AI's taking that away to some extent.
Yeah.
So
Donald says, look at the buggy whip makers adapt and adjust.
You know that story, the buggy whip one?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But the one I always think of is Nokia.
Mm.
Nokia is a great example of, I think they started out as a lumber company,
Hmm.
and then lumber to paper, paper to books, books to, and then next thing you know, they're making cell phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just got to adapt, man, adapt or die.
That's it. And that's life, right? I mean, we don't live like cavemen anymore. We sit in nice, homes now, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's progress is always disruptive, and those who embrace the progress are always better off than those who don't. Now,
Amen.
those who adapt to it early go through some volatility, right?
Hmm.
So you got to be willing to ride that out. And again, my take on this, if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, is if the volatility of say Nvidia stock is bothering you, you've got too much money in.
Hmm.
But give it a run, see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Put a little something in there because the payoffs can be exponential. Look at the value of Microsoft
Hmm.
since 1991, whatever year they went public, right? And then go down the laundry list of that. Netflix. I mean, Netflix put Blockbusters out of business. That was progress.
Yeah, and Reed Hastings went to Blockbuster initially and says, "Hey man, I got this great idea," and they left him out of the damn room.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
they could have bought it for pennies,
Right.
and yeah,
Yep.
how'd
Absolutely.
that work out?
So, yeah.
Well, you want to take us out, brother?
Yeah. The fight's coming. Be ready.